guys, today's video is going to be a book review discussion video, and this is my first book review of the year, which is kind of exciting. I wanted to talk all about Ignite by Lily Paradis today. This was a really fun, kind of easy to read, contemporary romance young adult book, and I finished this about a month ago, I think the very beginning of December, so it's been a little bit since I've read it. Had to like rack my brain to pull some details back out, but I wanted to do a book review on this because I really liked this story, and I was also sent this to read and review by the author Lily herself, which is really awesome. And I don't always agree to do reviews for books that I receive, which I've talked about before, but I really liked this one, and I definitely felt like it was worth telling you guys about and sharing with you guys. We'll be doing a spoiler-free review like I always do, so I will start with kind of the synopsis and the characters and just my general thoughts and all of that. I do like the cover. I think it's very just kind of cool in color tone. I like the purple. I'm a big purple fan. It's my favorite color. So I like the cover. It's very wintry and kind of snowy, so I think that's a nice touch. But to get started with kind of the summary of this book, this follows a 21-year-old girl named Lauren, and Lauren's in college, so she lives on her college campus, and her parents have been separated and both remarried to other people. But when the book starts off, it's evident that her dad passed away a couple years back. It tells us that he had a bad accident. When the book starts, she is told that her dad's wife has just been into an accident as well. Her step siblings are now left with no parents, essentially. So in the will, her parents have said that they want her to take care of the kids and take them into her custody, and if she chooses not to, then they'll be sent to foster care and they'll be separated and all that kind of stuff. At first, I was a little bit skeptical of this when I heard about the book, but I had heard it was really good and people liked it, so I was intrigued by the story. And once I got into the book, I really liked it. I got kind of into the characters, into the story. I found it more interesting. But at first I was kind of like, what? Both parents died and now she's got to take care of these step siblings? Or I think when I first heard it, I thought it was like cousins or something of hers, so I was kind of like, what? But before she finds this out, she meets this guy named Dean, who's kind of mysterious, kind of like very cool, very attractive, just kind of a wow personality. And then she finds out all of this happened, so she has to go back to the house where the kids live. She kind of takes care of them and decide what she's gonna do, but in the meantime, she's kind of learning about their life and kind of getting to know them, dealing with the trauma of her life kind of changing and turning upside down. Lauren's character is kind of guarded. I feel like she's a little bit headstrong, especially when it comes to dealing with Dean, because she's attracted to him. He's kind of a mystery, kind of bad boy type of vibe, but she likes him, but she's also kind of guarded and not sure of him. There's kind of a backstory to how he was acquainted with the family and things like that. They have kind of an interesting relationship at first, and then they start to kind of soften up and get more involved with each other while she still has to deal with these kids and all of that. So that was really interesting. I felt like both of their characters were pretty interesting people to read about. Actual siblings, there are 3 of them. There is an older sister, a kind of middle 11, 12-year-old brother, and then there's a younger stepsister who is, I think, 3 or 4, and I really liked the addition of these characters to the story. I felt like it was more interesting because there was more to it. So overall, the story follows her kind of adjusting and living in their life while also kind of dealing with her own emotions, and then she also has kind of this romantic kind of relationship happening with this other character that has some struggles to it as well. I loved the step sibling aspect as well. My favorite would have to be the youngest sister, who is, like I said, 3 or 4. She was so cute. She bonds really well with Lauren, and I really liked her. The boy is very kind of just nonchalant. He doesn't really care if she's there or not. And then the oldest sister does not like her at all, so she has kind of a challenge there with trying to get along with her, and they kind of combat and things like that. As far as my overall thoughts, I did really enjoy this book. I think that it was a really fun, fast-paced read. I got through this book in like 2 days, so it was super quick for me. I really liked the romance aspect of it. I did have a couple issues with the book personally, but I liked the romance aspect. I did like the relationship with the kids. A little bit disappointed with the way that the romance aspect of this kind of played out. I really liked it, but I also had some concerns. So this book kind of built and built and built like the moment where things are supposed to just take off and happen. And I felt like when it kind of got there, I was expecting a little bit more. I was a little bit let down. I wanted to see a little bit more kind of like pow behind that, and I wish that maybe after that there would have been a little bit more. I know some people talked about like the timing issue and how it all kind of happened really quickly, and that didn't necessarily bother me as much, but I did feel like the timing was going through it and kind of going towards this place, and then I was a little bit let down when it got there. So I did kind of wish there was a little bit more there where the romance aspect was concerned, because it is kind of a contemporary romance. But overall, I did still really enjoy it. I wish that the book was longer to see some more things happen or to see things play out better. But I did like the storyline, and I liked that it showed Dean's life too and about his past. The storyline itself was unique. It wasn't, you know, super difficult writing or anything like that, but it was pretty unique as far as the circumstances of it, which I felt was really interesting to read once I got into it. Connection with the siblings was nice, and that kind of progressed quickly too, so maybe that would have been nice to be drawn out a little bit more, but I liked those characters a lot. And then the only other major issue that I had with this was the kind of spelling, grammatical problem, and I've since learned that there was a reason behind this. But if you read this book, it has a lot of very obvious incorrect spelling and grammar, and I'm a big grammar freak. I'm a big English person, like with correct writing and spelling and things like that, so I picked up on that immediately, and I was kind of like, ugh. Like, it usually bothers me when I can pick up on like one or two things in a book that are not correct. So this had quite a few errors, and at first I was kind of like irked by that, but I have since learned that there was an issue with the publishing and the editing company. Is that what it's called? The proofreading process of this manuscript. There was an issue with that. She wrote an entire blog post on that, so I'll put a link to that below if you want to read that. I can't really hold that against the actual content of the story, but it was something that I think could bother some other people, so I did want to mention, if you do read that and that bothers you, there is kind of a backstory behind that. So kind of keep that as an open consideration, and maybe don't judge the book on that too harshly. Overall, I would say this book would be a 4 to a 4.5 star for me, and I find it really difficult for me to rate books because I rate every single book differently, and I don't have like a set criteria that I use for every single book that I read that determines whether it's a 1 star, a 2 star, a 3 star, etc. For me, I felt like this book deserved in the 4-star range because I found it really kind of engaging. I found it really interesting, really addicting. I couldn't put it down. I took it with me everywhere. I took it to class with me. I took it on the bus when I was riding to class, and I was always reading it every time I had a chance, and I flew through it. So for me, those kind of books that kind of draw you in and engage you into the story, I think are worth a little bit more. I would definitely read it again. I definitely liked the storyline. It wasn't perfect. There were some things with the plot, like I said, that kind of bothered me, and I do feel like some of the circumstances of what happened were a little bit extreme, but I am not as bothered by that. I know that it's a fictional book, so that kind of thing doesn't really bother me, especially when you look at dystopian and sci-fi and fantasy type of worlds. You know, that doesn't necessarily bother me that much. I mean, it was a little bit, you know, kind of worst case scenario situation, but it could happen. So, you know, that didn't bother me as much, but I do highly recommend this book, and that's why I think it deserves at least a 4 to a 4.5 star, because it was so engaging for me. I found it really interesting. I really liked the characters, and I would read it again, and I would recommend it. Glad that I had the opportunity to read it. I showed this in my favorite books of 2014 just because it was one of those books that I could just tell had something different about it. Maybe it could have been slightly altered to my personal preference, but you know, I think for Lily's debut novel, I believe this is her first novel, that this was a really unique idea. I think that overall she did it well, and I am excited to read the companion story coming out for this that is called Arclight, I think, and it's told from Dean's perspective. So I think hopefully if some of the bugs and kind of errors that this one had are considered, that maybe that one will be better as far as the grammar and stuff like that. So definitely check this out. I think it's worth reading. Like I said, I put it in my favorite books of 2014, so I really liked the story and the characters and the plot. I thought it was really unique, so I wanted to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sometimes I get a little bit kind of off track with reviews because I have just so much going through my mind and I don't really write down a script or notes. I just kind of wing it. So I hope you will check it out and that you all are having a really awesome month, and I will talk to you all very soon. Bye guys.